Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I apologize, it's been a little bit since we did anything, but today we're going to go ahead, dive straight in here, look at our instrument cluster. So as you can see, a couple of my gauges are dead just by looking at them. Our oil pressure's obviously not working. RPMs have been maxed out since I bought it. Speedometer hasn't been reading accurately, so we've got a lot of issues going on. Nice thing is, most of these dashes are pretty much the same. Everybody usually uses stepper motors. We'll go over those in just a little bit, but first thing we got to do is actually get this out of the truck. So, kill that. So, depending on what vehicle you have, it might be a different routine to get to these. I think most of the 2000 and up Chevys, everything's just a pull off, so you can actually just yank this whole upper cover off. Be careful if you have anything aftermarket. Double check your wires down below, make sure that you're not going to rip anything apart, and then all we're going to do is just pull this off. And then once we get this up and out of the way, we're going to go ahead and we might have to remove this bottom one. I don't think we do. I'll get a look inside here in just a second. But when you get to this point, all you got to do is go ahead and lower your steering wheel all the way down. And the easiest thing to do is just drop your gear selector all the way down, and this gives you the room you need to pull straight up and out. And I'm gonna have to adjust some of my wires here to finish pulling this out. All right, so this is all the farther I'm gonna be taking mine off. I got not enough lead going up to my light bar switch. So once you get this up out of the way, next thing we're gonna do is pretty straightforward. Go ahead and pull all of the screws that are holding this in place, and then just gently move it back. You're gonna see there's one plug in the back of these we're gonna have to disconnect. I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. But go ahead now, just start getting, I think there's looks like only 4 bolts on this model to get these out. We don't have to drop this lower cover, which is good. Double check, you guys, if you own a different vehicle. It may be a different process to remove these. All right, so we've got our instrument cluster out now, and it looks like it needs a good cleaning before it goes back. Now, the only thing we got to do is get this one plug off the back. And these are probably one of the easiest plugs you're ever going to have to deal with. You can see there's 2 tabs down here. And all you got to do is just squeeze them together. We're just going to gently pull these out. All right, so they put up a bit of a fight. Usually, you can just squeeze rock side to side. They'll slowly start to come out. So we've got our whole display here out and ready to go. Let's go ahead and get it back inside the house or wherever you guys are working, just somewhere more comfortable and warm than the inside of the truck. So we'll get this inside and get to work. All right, so we're back inside now. Best part of every video, we got the common sense warning. Common sense. Don't do this in a hurry. Okay, these are plastic little tabs that we're going to be yanking on and working with. If you do this in a rush, you're going to break them. I don't know if they sell the backs to these individually or the plastic lens on the top. I don't want to find out. Typically, this is probably about an hour and a half, 2-hour job to do, especially since I'm going to be doing way more in depth than what you guys might or might not have to do. We're going to be replacing the stepper motors. We're going to be replacing the LED lights, and we're going to be replacing these factory orange needles. So, that being said, we're going to move forward. Don't rush. Don't break anything. First thing we're going to want to do is get this plastic cover off of the top. So, to do that, you can take a look around this, see, okay, these open the bottom. So, we're going to spin it around. We've got a couple of top latches here. You can take a screwdriver, just a flat-headed screwdriver, pop these in, wiggle them free a little bit, and this lens should come right off nice and easy. All right, one little red flag we're having here is on the bottom side, you see these tabs that are inverted. Don't try and stick a screwdriver up through here and wiggle on them. It's kind of difficult to see, but you can see we've got a little bit of electronics back there, not something we really want to go prying on. What works best is a hook tool, really any sort of hook tool. You can just wiggle back behind this little guy, and you can pry it forward to get that leverage. All right, so we've got this case off. You can see all your gauges now. Everything's free moving, free spinning. What you're gonna do for every single gauge is I've got one set up here Take a piece. I like using painter's tape, you know, that blue tape or that whitish tape. Slide it right under, and you can mark right at the end of that needle. And this is for when you put these needles back, you make sure they're zeroed out, because obviously you don't want your RPMs to be zeroed out at 2,000. You start your truck, you're way up here, redlined. Just take your time, spin all these. You'll kind of feel a point where they stop. Sometimes they'll go beyond, and you can just kind of mark it down at 0. But everything kind of has its little stopping point. So just mark it right about where 0 wants to be on each one of these gauges. Make sure that we can put these back where they want to go, and we'll move forward from there. Little side note though, don't use duct tape on here. This is real flimsy, feels just like a little plastic paper basically. What you don't want to do is start ripping off tape and you're making holes and cuts in these. So use something that'll come up fairly simple. Don't use duct tape. Do keep in mind as you guys are taping, some of these will stop at 0, but not all of them. Okay, so just mark it down to where you think 0 is. You know, if a gauge stops, it's probably a pretty safe bet it can go there. But some of these, you know, they'll just keep right on spinning. So you just want to set it right down at 0, wherever that may be on each individual gauge. And that's really just about it. All right, so we've got our pretty little needles arm marked up here. Now what we're going to do is start actually removing each one of these needles. Now the easiest way to do that is we're just going to take this, and there's going to be some resistance, don't freak out. I'm going to twist it counterclockwise a few inches past where its 0 mark is. Now believe it or not, the easiest way to do this is with a fork, a regular household fork, and professionals do this. Rebuild companies do this. If you don't have access to a fork, or you already have a puller that's specially designed for these needles, you can do that, or you can just pull straight up off the board. Just make sure you guys pull straight up, okay? Don't be pulling out at angles, you're gonna start breaking things. If you're reusing these needles, be very conscious of how you turn them. Make sure when you turn it, you're grabbing at the base. Don't try yanking on this from the needle end. Some of these will be tight and it'll snap that needle. If you're putting new needles on like we are today, then who cares? So go ahead, turn everything just a little bit, and then you're just gonna pull whatever tool or hand you wanna use straight up. Last thing, some of you haven't figured it out. This little device is right in our way. It's about 3 inches too tall. So to get it out, we're gonna very gently, you don't have to go very high, lift up this piece of paper, and all this is it sits on a little coil spring that will move it for you. Super simple. Now it's out of the way. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start getting to the high-tech part of things. We're gonna go ahead and take this, now that everything's nice and flat, we're gonna flip it upside down. Now, next step, same as before, we've got these little plastic clips. We're gonna pry them up and get this back plastic piece off and expose the board that's underneath. All right, guys, this is the step where I get nervous because I am very good at breaking expensive things. Next, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the back side of this board, gently, very, very, very gently. Easy. Okay, so these are stepper motors. Don't pull on them yet. Each one of these activates an individual gauge. Depending what model and make of vehicle you have, you may have more or less stepper gauges. If you drive a Duramax, you're probably watching this channel for this, we have 7. So make sure when you guys buy stepper motors, you need to make sure of 2 things. First thing, get the right amount of stepper motors. You don't want to be short, okay? It's better to have too much than not enough. Second thing, make sure you get above factory. The factories were incredibly prone to having issues and breaking, okay? I believe it's a X27 or something similar to that. I'll show you guys when my stepper motors get in probably about an hour. So that's the route we're gonna run everything. We'll show you how to do LEDs, replace the stepper motors. There's gonna be some soldering here. If you've never done soldering before, take a break, look at some other videos. I recommend practicing first before you start messing with this board. If you guys are proficient, the kit I got to rebuild this is, I think it cost me like $50 with the red needles. A complete replacement instrument cluster is about $300 to $400 for the Duramax drivers. So it's not something you want to toy with. Take your time, make sure you've got the skills correctly to do this, and we'll move forward. All right, guys, so we're getting set up to solder here and desolder. We got our soldering iron and our desolderer. More fun to call him a solder sucker. But what we're gonna do is each one of your stepper motors have 4 legs on the back side of this motor. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna track them down, and these are some right here. Easiest way to find them is look for the legs off of your stepper motor, and you will have 4 leads off either side of those. Make sure not to desolder the wrong things. So what you'll do, you'll heat up your soldering iron, you'll put it on here for a couple of seconds, then you're gonna take your soldering iron and suck it off. I'm not gonna record doing this. This is really high precision, you have to be very good at it, so I'm probably not going to video desoldering. I probably will try and get someone else to record the process of resoldering these. All you gotta do, guys, it's real simple. You see the metal on here, heat it up till it's a liquid, take the solder sucker, suck them out. It should be pretty quick. Just wait for it to turn to a liquid, look at it, see if there's still any metal, and if there is, melt it down some more. This particular soldering iron, I think I only have set at about 375 degrees. Touch it for 2-3 seconds, suck it up. All right, guys, so once we've got all these old stepper motors off, we're gonna go ahead and do probably the hardest part. Hardest part's going to be resoldering these terminal connections. So I'm not very good at it. As you can see, mine are burned alive, but pretty simple process. Go ahead and take this wire lead with your soldering iron, connect, drip a little bit of hot metal on there, and make sure we got a good connection. So kind of some last minute things, guys. Don't worry when you're installing these stepper motors. You see you've got one small joint, one bigger one. So these really only fit in one way. You don't got to worry about having them backwards or upside down or anything. So just a little side note as you're moving forward with your soldering here. As well, here you guys can see next to this terminal, we've got some pretty significant charring, and I didn't do this one. This was underneath the old solder, so this board has been rebuilt once before using the X27 stepper motors. But if you're seeing something like this on your board, make sure you're really cautious around it. You don't want to burn that anymore. So when you're soldering, make sure you move quick on that. Try not to burn that board anymore. All right, guys, once we've got all of the soldering done, next thing you want to do, make sure that these are all solid. There's no jiggling movements. You don't got to force them, but just make sure that everything's grounded out where it wants to be. And then, that being said, you're done. The only thing you got to do is reassemble, put the gauges on. We're going to get to that in a minute. Next thing we're going to do is look at doing an LED conversion on this board. So you see you've got various LEDs. The blinker bulbs I'm leaving alone. I'm just going to be swapping out the gauge lighting. Now to do this, it's pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is we're going to take and literally just rip these right off of their old solders, as you can see. Then just rip the bulb out. And once that's done, this is one of the new LED bulbs. You're going to cut some of the length off, fold it up underneath, and then what you'll do is you'll put this down on top of there, heat up some of this existing solder to the new leads, and you're just going to help push that down on top of that solder as we go. All right, so the one downside to these bulbs is there's not really a defining method of positive or negative. I can tell you which one's positive and negative on the bulb, but however, the board doesn't actually mark them as positive or negative that I can see. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to do a little bit of guessing. Put these down, however, make sure they're on the correct terminals, obviously. And we'll do that with all the bulbs. And then plug it in, see which ones light up, which ones don't. All you got to do is if this one doesn't light up, we're going to take it off, flip it around, put it back. And that's just to meet the polarity. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this down, heat up the solder underneath, and should just be able to just kind of push it in, let that solder cure for a minute, and that should be a pretty good bond. So, all right, that first bulb looks like it's down fairly well. Tricky, very tricky. So I found the best way to be is try and line up both of your corners over the solder. And what I'll do is I'll lift up one side, heat that up, buzz around, heat the other side up, and then just push it down firm. It's a bit of trial and error, especially trying to work around your finger without soldering your finger down to the board, but it's possible, it's possible. All right, guys, so we got all of our LEDs mounted down. Make sure that you got secure connections, nothing's falling off. Now for the worst part of this video. The worst part of this video is we're gonna go plug this in, see that everything's lighting up okay. What's gonna suck is no matter what, there's gonna be a bulb that doesn't work. Polarity is backwards. So we're gonna go plug this in, figure out which bulbs need swapped around, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, well, here's something I did not expect at all. We only have one bulb on mine that is bad. You can see that's the fuel gauge bulb right down there. So we're gonna go in, look at how to fix this, but you can see everything else is lit up real well. We got good coloration coming out, so feeling pretty positive about everything. We're gonna flip that one bulb around, reverse that polarity, and we'll move forward from there. All right, guys, we got to pull back apart here real quick, just a couple of series of clips. Got this off, now we've got it reversed, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take it, flip it around, mount it back down, and we should have positive polarity now. All right, guys, we're gonna clip this back piece on. All right, so now we're back to our friendly little gauges here. I'm putting on upgraded ones to match the LEDs, so all we're gonna do, it's easiest to put these up at about a 12 o'clock position, which is halfway up, in case you didn't know that. Just try and go in dead center. You can see down inside there, that shaft is pretty straight up. So if we're going in at angles, we're gonna end up snapping that off. So let's try and get this seated on there. All right, so we've got that seated on there. You guys notice, pretty different color contrast. So if you guys are going with like a blue LED, they make these in blue, green LEDs, whatever. You can get a whole kit that has pretty much all the colors with the exception of your blinkers changing. So yeah, that's the route we're gonna go. We're gonna go ahead and put all these back on the 12 o'clock position, the halfway mark, and we'll go forward from there. All right, so we've got all our needles set. You can double check on some of these, like the aftermarket ones I noticed. Mine I actually have to kind of put a little weight on, push down to get them to sit, so they don't flop back and forth out of position. Be careful, that doesn't mean go hit them with hammers. Don't go hit them with hammers. So just go ahead and get these all set, and then what we're gonna do is counterclockwise, so that's this way. We're gonna just set this needle, and you'll feel it get tight on the bearings. That's good, that's fine. I'm gonna try and line that up right on its mark. Okay, we're gonna do that with every single gauge. Make sure they're dead on. This is key for zeroing them out, otherwise you're gonna have gauges that are reading inaccurately. So take your time, make sure it's dead on. When you're doing these two, if you miss, oops, don't go back. You'll notice how that's loose, okay? You want those bearings to be tight on zero. So if you miss, go counterclockwise all the way around again. It's not gonna hurt anything. And then you can line it up dead on at zero. All right, we got all our needles set at zero. Everything's pretty, you like it. This is gonna be your last opportunity to clean this thing. Make it look nice, so last chance. Go ahead, get it cleaned, get it snapped on into place. Just a simple push on with the clips, if you remember. And we'll get it out to the truck, plug in the harness, and get moving. All right, guys, we got everything back up and running. All the lights are coming through strong. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get all the bolts put back into place. Wait until nighttime to check this, because during the day it's really hard to see if the LEDs are lit up. So wait till night. You know, you can really definitely see now where all these bulbs are, whether or not they're lit up. So go ahead, hit your four corners, get your bolts put back in, and put your dash back wherever it goes back together. Chevys, we obviously just have a little push in, so then we'll start it up, make sure all our gauges are reading accurately. All right, guys, so as you can see, everything's reading 100% accurately. If you've got a CTS2, you can use it to kind of cross-reference and see what part of your gauges are right. Maybe you got them zeroed in a little bit incorrectly. So yeah, that pretty much does it. If you're having any issues, double check all your terminal connections. Make sure that you've got good soldering on it. Just run through, double check everything if you're having issues still. You know, as usual, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any videos you want to see in the future, please drop them down below. I'll reply as soon as I can. We're looking at doing a couple of videos, a light bar install. We just recently put a built trans in here through No Zone Diesel, Dimitri Miller. We'll do a review on that and get some things rolling. So yeah, with any luck, we'll be putting up some new videos. And then, of course, you guys know this channel is 100% what do you feel up for. So if there's something you want to see or you haven't seen yet, let me know. We'll see what we can do to get it set up. So yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button, tell your friends, and the more this channel grows, the more videos we'll be making.